you know what? You need absolutely everything that exists. And everything that exists, whether it's the African violet or the tree outside, needs you. Nothing, absolutely nothing, exists independently. The ego suggests that if something is truly independent, not dependent on anything else, it is eternal. If you didn't have to eat, if you didn't have to drink, if your cells were embodying wholeness in themselves, you would be eternal, your body would be eternal. No. Your eternality depends upon absolutely every other part of creation. It's in the wholeness of all that is that your eternality awaits you. But that means you've got to give up this age-old quest for independence. It means that you have to allow for the fact that you fit in, not stand out. You've got to yield to the wholeness. You've got to let yourself be part of the wholeness. And initially, that's the way it will look to you. It will look to you as though this little thing that you are has to say, okay, I'm willing to be a part of infinity, a part of creation, not the author of it. Not being in some special position, riding on God's shoulder, separate and apart, not needing it all, but being able to enjoy it maybe through God's eyes. You've got to find out that you fit in. This is very humbling to the ego. It's actually humiliating to the ego. It is incapable of being humble. When you have had enough misery as a result of the attempt to be independent, when you've had enough misery from that, that you are willing to join, you are willing to yield into, you are willing to find where you fit in, that breaks the isolation. And that's what opens the door for your mind to resume its function, which is to be the presence of capital M mind, which is God, in which you are experiencing all as the infinitude of your being, because you are not claiming a being separate from the movement of God, which is the meaning of the word being. And so, ultimately, you find that you are not a part of anything. You are the whole itself. Part of Mark's infinitude has just tried to connect with him. So again, once you yield to being part of the whole and joining occurs, you come back into your right mind, in which you are no longer a part of the whole, but you are the experience of the wholeness, knowing that every other part of the wholeness is essential, and that no part of it is superior, no part of it is special. No part of it is actually separate in any way. Let's continue. Again, everything the ego perceives is a separate whole, W-H-O-L-E, without the relationships that imply being. The ego is thus against communication, except insofar as it, communication, is utilized to establish separateness rather than to abolish it. That means that when you're not connected and you are experiencing ongoing uneasiness, which you may have become numb to, you nevertheless continue to use communication solely for the purpose of reinforcing separateness. That's very important to understand. If you realize that at all times when you are not joined, all communication occurs for the purpose of establishing and maintaining separateness, you will find more justification for questioning the way you're perceiving things. You'll find more justification for saying, maybe I ought to actively try to employ a different way of relating with everyone and everything. Because at the bottom line, you don't want to unconsciously be engaging in something detrimental to your sanity and something detrimental to everyone else's sanity. You really don't want to be constantly engaged in reinforcing your uneasiness, your discomfort, your illness, your frustration, your jealousy, everything that accompanies the human condition. Continuing, the communication system of the ego is based on its own thought system, as is everything else it dictates. Its communication is controlled by its need to protect itself. And it will disrupt communication when it experiences threat, which is, of course, what Paul was doing with Susan for 2 weeks, because for 2 weeks she tried to establish communication. Continuing, while this is always so, individual egos perceive different kinds of threat, which are quite specific in their own judgment. For example, although all forms of perceived demands may be classified or judged by the ego as coercive communication which must be disrupted, the response of breaking communication will nevertheless be to a specific person or persons. So, here it is, folks. As long as you're not joined, you are using and abusing each other, and nothing else. The interesting thing is that you don't have to you don't have to abuse each other harshly. All you have to do is just maintain a gentle level of abuse in order to keep yourself from waking up. Just a constant, slight undercurrent of thoughtlessness or judgmental words. Just ever so slight is all it takes. So it isn't like you're all mentally raping each other or physically punching each other or doing grossly abusive things. All you have to do is just be a little out of sync with each other. Just a little out of sync with each other in order to maintain an edge to things that keeps union from occurring. That keeps you from engaging with that place of excellence that is in you, and from there, joining with your brother or sister in the place of excellence in them. You know what? Trees, flowers, dogs and cats, mosquitoes, rocks, leaves can contribute nothing to the development of mutually agreed upon definitions. All of your illusions occur as a result of manipulative communication with each other. Nothing, not the world, not the universe, not physics, nothing creates illusion for you except the way you use each other. You know, it doesn't say in the course that I looked at a rock and remembered God, or that I looked at a tree and remembered God. I looked into my brother's eyes and remembered God. So, there's only one problem you have, and that problem is having chosen to imaginatively create in your mind a space in which you could conceive of yourself as being independent and autonomous from the mind of God, which is the only mind you have. And then you bind yourself to that by the way you interact with each other. So now you could say we have two steps involved in coming home. One is to abandon your attempt to be autonomous and independent. so that you might join with the Father once again, or with me, or with the Holy Spirit, in inner communion, so that you might be infilled with perspective not embraced by the definitions you've given to everything. And the second part of it is that you must stop using each other to confirm your autonomy. And that's why, in order to wake up, you must have an object of your affection. And that object of your affection is not a cat, is not a flower, is not a tree, is not a chair, is not a star, but is the person, the brother or sister next to you. And you must find a way within yourself to care enough about them to want to extend to them something excellent. And the only place you can get something excellent to extend to them is from some place other than this imaginary space you've made for yourself, that you've identified as the totality of what you are. In other words, me or the Holy Spirit or God. I and the Holy Spirit will only be conveying to you the Father's will. So, however you approach it, whether it is through me or the Holy Spirit or the Father, you're still only approaching the Father. You're still only inviting in a conscious embrace of your source with the acknowledgement that you are not the source of yourself. So it's very simple. You have to turn toward God. But the only justification for turning toward God that will contribute to your awakening is that what the Father gives you in response to your opening up to Him is to be a gift to someone else, your brother, your sister, your fellow man. Isn't it wonderful, the wholeness of the manner of coming home? And the fact that in order for you to come home, everyone else has to be embraced with you so that no one is left out. Ooh, well, that's more work than I thought it was going to be. Now, the only thing that will make it work is your reluctance to actually be willing to care, to actually be willing to love your brother or your sister. It's not the loving that's hard. It's breaking down your resistance. It's freeing up your willingness to extend love, to be loving. Okay, continuing. The specificity of the ego's thinking, then, results in a spurious kind of generalization which is really not abstract at all. It will respond in certain specific ways to all stimuli which it perceives as related. In contrast, the soul reacts in the same way to everything it knows is true and does not respond at all to anything else. Nor does it make any attempt to establish what is true. It knows that what is true is everything that God created. It The soul is in complete and direct communication with every aspect of creation because it is in complete and direct communication with its Creator. This communication is the will of God. Now listen to this. Creation and communication are synonymous. Creation is a gift. It's an extension. Not just a sort of poofed out into empty space. Not something extruded into a waiting vessel. Communication is the extension of something to something else, to someone. When the word hello is said, it is said to someone who can hear the word. It isn't printed on a page and put on a bulletin board out on a telephone post out in the middle of the desert, where someone may see it if they happen to be going down that road where that telephone pole is. Communication is something extended to someone or something that it can register with, where dialogue, interchange can occur. Creation and communication are synonymous. Now listen, God created every mind by communicating His mind to it, thus establishing it forever as a channel for the reception of capital H, His mind and will. We were talking last week about the bad rap that channeling gets. But let's face it, it's your function to glorify God. It's your function to represent God. It's your function to make the gift of your source. Since only beings of a like order can truly communicate, His creations naturally communicate with Him and like Him. Mind you now, we're talking about the Christ that you are right at this moment, in spite of the definition you've currently given yourself and which you're currently committed to. We're talking about the fully Christed ones that each one of you are right here, but which you're not availing yourself of, and you're not employing, you might say, in everything you do. Again, since only beings of a like order can truly communicate, His creations naturally communicate with Him and like Him. This communication is perfectly abstract in that its quality is universal in application and not subject to any judgment, any exception, or any alteration. God created you by this and for this. The mind, not the ego, the mind, can distort its function, but it cannot endow itself with functions it was not given. That is why the mind cannot totally lose the ability to communicate, even though it may refuse to utilize it on behalf of being. Existence, as well as being, rests on communication. That makes it sound like existence and being are two separate things. And there is a distinction. Existence is the definition you've given to the experience of being. Being is the experience of mind, with a capital M, seeing all that it infinitely is and recognizing itself in it. Being is a total experience. You might say the infinite experience of being is totally grasped, totally understood, totally felt, without a single thought occurring, and therefore without a single definition being attached to it. Existence is being with definitions attached to it. Again, existence as well as being rests on communication. Existence, however, is specific in how, what, and with whom communication is judged to be worth undertaking. Being is completely without those distinctions. It is a state in which the mind is in communication with everything that is real, including the soul. To whatever extent you permit this state to be curtailed, you are limiting your sense of your own reality, which becomes total only by your recognizing all reality in the glorious context of its real relationship to you. In other words, when you realize how you fit in to it. This is your reality. You are in relationship with all that exists, with all of creation. Do not desecrate it or recoil from it. It is your real home, your real temple, and your real capital S self. God, who encompasses all being, nevertheless created beings who have everything individually, but who want to share it. Who want to share it, to increase their joy. Nothing that is real can be increased except by sharing. Gift. That is why God Himself created you. Do you see? Divine abstraction takes joy in application. And that is what creation means. Divine abstraction left abstract is non-existent creation. Divine abstraction takes joy in application. And that is what creation means. How, what, and to whom are irrelevant, because real creation gives everything.